I'm using frozen cherries for this recipe, mainly because cherries are out of season. They're supposed to be pre-pitted. What you see over on the side on my mat is that plastic cherry looking gizmo. That is a cherry pitter, so if I do find a whole cherry, I can use that to push the pit out. I'm wearing gloves for this recipe because cherries stain. What else I have all pre-prepped for my ingredients. The cherries were the last thing I was prepping. I have there 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which will be added into the mix. It's in that little blue shot glass there. The white shot glass contains my vinegar for wiping the tops of the jars. We also have 3 tablespoons of pectin in the little blue bowl and 3 1/3 cups of sugar in the big bowl. I have on the side prepped ready to go my headspace measurer. It's also got what they call a debubbler on it, the other end that you will see used during the beef video, the beef in a jar, meal in a jar video. And it's just mainly to get extra air out. The staggered side is to measure clearances. Alright, I got my cherries inside my cooking pot there. I am stirring it down. I'm waiting for it to boil. Add lemon juice. And it's doing really well. You see the juice coming out of the cherries there. When you put fruit straight in, the juice will start coming out for the jellies, or jams, excuse me. I am now adding pectin, 3 tablespoons of pectin, and stirring it down. You can see I add a little at a time, stir it down till I can't see it, and keep doing it again and again until my bowl is empty. And then what I need to do is bring this up to a second boil and get it boiling really good to where I can't stir it down, and then I will add the sugar. So here I go, cleaning and stirring. You're going to notice that I wipe counters and stoves a lot during this because cherry juice is really horrible for stains. Make sure you're wearing an apron or something to protect your clothes, which I did not do in this case. And you can see the boiling starting. I would really actually call that a simmer at the moment. It's getting close to a boil to where I can add the sugar. So, and I'm stirring constantly because I do not want my cherries to burn. Nothing tastes worse than burnt cherry jelly. Trust me on this one. Alrighty, I'm going to let that boil up just a little more. There we go. You can see the bigger bubbles now. It's getting up to a boil here. A real good boil. So I'm about to add some sugar. I wanted to make sure I can't knock that down, stirring it up. Now we're at a full boil for this. With the pectin, the boil wouldn't look like boiling water because it's thick. But you can see the pectin set up. I can sit there and stir and see the bottom of the pot. Slowly add the sugar, a little bit at a time. Stir it in. The sugar will melt. In fact, it melts very quickly. You can see I put more than normal in there and just going away. So, okay, stir it in. I can't see any raw sugar in the mix. So I add more. Stirring it down. The timer's just gone off for the sterilization of the jars. So I'm turning the heat down a little bit. It's best if your timing gets off that the jars themselves are the thing you're not waiting on while you're doing your food prep. That way you don't overcook your food. You can boil the jars or keep the jars hot while you're stirring your ingredients in, and it won't hurt the sterilization or anything with the jar. so long as there's enough water in the pot, which I guarantee you with an inch over it, over the tops of the jars, there's plenty of water in there. Alrighty, getting the sugar stirred back in. I've got to bring it up to a boil again after I get all the sugar in, which there, as you can tell, is a lot. By the way, this is very sticky. Alright, all the sugar's in. Stirring it down real well. And you can see on the edges there how it's boiling really, really well. The key factor here is I can't stir that down while it's boiling. That's what I was talking about with these things. They can take a while to make. And when you're making jams and jellies, don't walk away from the stove. You just don't want it to burn. There you can see I'm stirring. It's getting very close to the point where I am going to be able to take it off the stove because I won't be able to stir the bubbles down. Okay, getting my hot pad mitts on. I'm going to take my jars out now because I'm to the point where I'm ready to can. You see me picking it up, emptying the jars. This recipe, for me, didn't produce any foam. So I didn't have to worry about scooping any foam off, so I can move my ladle out of the way and start filling jars. As you see here. I want to make sure that my jars have the correct headspace, and in this case it is 1/4 of an inch. This stuff is very, very, very hot. So I got 3 full jars out of that. And on this one, I am only going to get about half a jar. So what I'm going to do is after I fill it up, I am going to set it aside. That jar will not be canned. It's going straight into the fridge. As you see, I put it off to the side there. I almost forgot. We need to put vinegar around the very tops of the jars. If any of it's spilled, you want to get the sides of the jars too. And that's just to make sure there's no sugar or sticky stuff that will prevent you from getting a seal on your lids. I'm putting the lids on the 3 that I am going to can. Put the lids on finger tight, and then the little lid on the one set aside for the refrigerator. Alright, my water is hot. You can see it's still boiling. I am going to put my jars back into my canner. It's not at a rolling boil. And you can see too, I'm grabbing the jars. I shouldn't have tipped the jar like that. Never tip the jar like that when you get your food in there. You're grabbing the jars by the glass, not by the lids, not by the rings. By the glass. Okay, everything's inside the pot. And I am going to bring that up to a full boil. When we have achieved full boil, set the timer for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to turn off the heat on my canning pot. And I'm going to take the lid off. Get that out of the way. Now this particular recipe calls for the jars to sit in the water for 5 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. Five minutes later, we are now grabbing the jars, pulling them straight out. I shouldn't be shaking that either, but I had an excess of water there. I didn't want to drip across the kitchen. See the water on the lid? I'm very, very gently patting the water, just letting the towel absorb it. Very gently, because I do not want that center to be pushed in. I want that to go down naturally. And that'll usually happen within 30 minutes after you take everything out of the water. Sometimes you don't hear it, but a lot of times it makes this little metal tink sound. And I know that I have achieved seal. It's sucked down. This happens while the jars are cooking. 8 hours later, I am ready to take the rings off. This is one of the reasons why you want them finger tight, because you have to take those off. You can see I'm checking to make sure that seals down real good. I'm just checking to see if they're going to pop off. You can see the little indentations in the middle of the jars. They have sealed down really nicely. You don't store the rings on the jars. I put them aside in case I need them for later use. You can reuse the rings until they have rust or anything. Now I'm going to put a little piece of cloth on top of mine, basically as a dust preventative. Put the ends together, bring the string through the loop, cinch it down. Then I bring the excess around, and I have enough to tie a knot, or a little cute little bow. Tie that down, nice and snug. There we go, and that is ready to go up. Repeat the process. I just use pieces of cloth that I have left over from sewing projects. If you're going to sell it, you want to make sure those little pieces of cloth match. I have so much various kind here, and this is for my personal use. So, there you go. Sweet cherry jam, labeled, put the date on, and you're good to go.